have Naor, CFO of HMNC Brain Health. I hope I did righteousness to your name. Give him a round of applause. Get him up there. Let's get you up there.
What do I need to do? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Naor, and I am the Chief Financial Officer of HMNC Brain Health. I would be happy to spend the next 20 minutes or so presenting you our company, as we call it, the Precision Psychiatry Company. And why do we call it that? Because we believe that we're at the forefront of this precision psychiatry or targeted therapeutics in the field of mental health, from companion diagnostic to compound. And how do we do that? We do that with our artificial intelligence platform that, together with its derivative compounds, we believe has a very high patient impact and hopefully blockbuster potential. It stems also, as we all know, and that's why we're here today, from the huge market in depression and mental health and the huge unmet need of currently available therapeutics. So this, together with our artificial intelligence platform, combining psychiatry, genomics, and analytics, brings us to our game-changing personalized therapies consisting of 3 compounds, boasting blockbuster potential over $3 billion, we hope, in peak sales, only in the indications, our core indications of major depressive disorder and treatment-resistant depression. That said, they enjoy further upside potential also in other indications in depression and in mental health. We already have several partnerships with big pharma companies, IP protection through the mid-2030s with the ability to prolong that. The company, spin-off of the Max Planck Institute in Germany, and now has also US presence, including myself. As you see, I don't have a German accent. And we're now in the midst of our fundraising round. Then, drilling down into our artificial intelligence platform, it basically allows us to develop diagnostics that would predict the response of any given patient to a drug, and basically allow us to stratify the population and be able to administer drugs only to a population that we know in advance that is going to respond well to it. And this is how we're able to get out of the current paradigm of this one-size-fits-all and this very long and painful process of trial and error. So administering a drug to a patient and then not knowing whether the patient is going to respond well or not, and needing, as some of my colleagues here from other companies mentioned, to wait weeks or months in order to ascertain whether the response was there or not. And obviously that causes a lot of cost and hassle, both to the patient and to the healthcare system and society overall. And in addition to that, in the end, also lower compliance, because the patient is so much unsure whether the drug is going to be efficacious or not, and needing to wait months in order to understand that. Our leadership team, we have world-renowned personas in the fields of diagnostics, pharmaceuticals, and mental health, including our chairman of the board, Dr. Franz Humer, ex-CEO and chairman of Roche, and one of the first CEOs in big pharma, who then emphasized the need for pharmaceuticals and diagnostics to work together to get to a superior outcome. And that's why he is our chairman of the board, because this is exactly what we are doing. Then one of our co-founders, Professor Holzberg, one of the most known personas in the field of psychiatry, ex-director of Max Planck Institute of Psychiatry, and author of over 1,200 scientific articles in the field of psychiatry. Market, I guess that you're all familiar with that. If we're looking at mental disorders, over 600 million people globally. Depression alone is hundreds of millions of people globally, with huge unmet need and huge burden to society, estimated in trillions of dollars. If we would itemize one of our co-founders, Professor Holzberg's frustrations from currently available antidepressants, and what he saw as our goals, it would be those big four: faster efficacy, higher response and remission, quick normalization of functioning of the patient, and much less side effects. And this is our credo, and we try to have all of our compounds comply with those big four. Then getting to our compounds, three compounds, first of them targeted, although not yet part of our precision psychiatry approach. Ketamine, a ketamine formulation targeting treatment-resistant depression patients. Just read out, I'll get to that in the next slide. About to go to a large phase 2 clinical trial with a readout around mid of next year. Then nalivibon and cortibon targeting major depressive disorder, our precision psychiatry compounds with companion diagnostics. Basically V1B and CRH antagonists respectively. Ketamine, our ketamine formulation. So as some of the other presenters mentioned, ketamine was used for the past 50 years, known to be an anesthetic, and then in low doses, a dissociative antidepressant. So in terms of efficacy, it reaches the target, and there are a couple of approved formulations and uses for ketamine already on the market. Which have good efficacy. Their problem is the dissociative effect, and more broadly, the side effect. So impact over heart rate, blood pressure, and the dissociative effect, which basically necessitate them to be given in a clinic or hospital settings, which is a huge drawback. What we aim to do is get to a similar efficacy and onset, but without the high abuse potential or side effects, and basically no necessity to monitor those patients. In other words, this is a oral prolonged release, oral intake that we intend to position as a take-at-home compound. Which is a huge advantage. The patient doesn't need to go to the clinic. It's not an appointment for a surgery or a dentist or anything like that. It doesn't kill a half a day for the patient. It would increase compliance and would take costs further much lower. Then, hot off the press, we then had a readout about 2 weeks ago, investigator-initiated trial, which basically had the results of larger improvement on the MADRS scale of the higher dose versus placebo, and a higher improvement, as you can see, versus the low dose. The improvement was 4.99 points on the MADRS scale after 15 days. And just to give a sense of the order of magnitude, as per the trial mentioned in the US label of the esketamine approved Therapeutics Spravato, it reached only 2 points after 2 weeks and 4 points after 4 weeks. In addition, our formulation got to a similar improvement already after 7 days. So efficacy, definitely on par with currently available ketamine formulations, rapid onset, and then not less importantly, the good tolerability and safety. So in simple words, and this is basically the requirement for the take-it-home profile, we got to no impact over blood pressure, heart rate, and dissociative effect at the level of placebo. So this makes us very optimistic about the future trajectory of that compound and the large multinational clinical trial phase 2 that we're about to put this compound into. And again, its overall market potential, which we believe will position it as a first-in-class antidepressant, at least for TRD, and then potentially further indications. Then getting to our other two compounds, nalivibon and cortibon, they are involved in what we call the stress axis, or the dysfunction in it. It's called stress-adjusted or HPA axis. Basically, this feeling of stress that occurs in the body and the brain starts with the secretion of those two hormones, the CRH and vasopressin, that then through a chain reaction through the adrenal glands result in the secretion of cortisol, the stress hormone, and then with this feedback loop gets attenuated down, so it doesn't persist forever. Then about 30% of patients, this feedback loop does not function well, and what happens is this stress hormone remains at high levels and then causes thereby depression. This is where those two compounds kick in, being those vasopressin and CRH receptor blockers, and they stop this malfunctioning. Then we use for them companion diagnostics, that would predict which patients would react to those specific compounds, thereby allowing us to administer them only to those patients that are predicted to be the good responders. And again, eliminating this trial and error process that I mentioned before. So for better or worse, those compounds are similar to, were already tried by Big Pharma, went through phase 2 trials, and then for the better, they had shown good tolerability and safety, but then for worse, those trials were terminated. Why were they terminated? As you can see here, very limited efficacy. So this was the active arm, that's placebo, so just slightly above, and not even reaching the standard of care. And the reason for that was, as per our belief, that those drugs were given to just an unselected population. But then researchers at the Max Planck Institute, where organization was spun off from, created this pro forma analysis, looking at the results of only the patients that were expected to be good responders to this drug, which is here, and then seeing much better efficacy with those patients. Again, the crux here is to then stratify the population and being able to then predict who or which patients would belong to this good responder group. But we have now is a relatively simple to administer blood test that would perform this prediction. So each of those drugs expected to benefit around 30% of MDD patients, so around 100 million patients globally, with some sort of overlap that we believe is not significant. Cortibon expected to go in man next year, but nalivibon much more advanced, expected to start phase 2 in the next few months with a readout around the end of next year. And wrapping up the financials, as I mentioned, we believe, given this profile, this targeted profile, stay at home for, or take it home of all of our compounds, oral intake, they're hopefully expected to get to peak sales of over $1 billion. That is only from the core indications of major depressive disorder and treatment-resistant depression, and only from the core geographies that we're focused on right now, which is the US and Europe. And again, we believe that in terms of risk, so not regardless of the top-line potential, they're relatively de-risked, again, going through phase 2 trials already, and now into larger ones. IP protection, as I mentioned, through the 2030s, those are the patents that are already granted, with several pending, focusing around North America and Europe, with again some pending in other claims and territories. So that's HMNC, I'd say in a nutshell, and we've all heard the presentations of a lot of companies. What makes HMNC special are probably two things. The precision psychiatry approach. So being able to administer drugs to patients that we know upfront are going to respond well to. And number two, probably as opposed to all sorts of other currently available and other drugs, low dissociation effects. So all of our drugs expected to be oral intakes, take-it-home drugs, something that, again, would eliminate a lot of costs and would increase compliance of patients taking those drugs. Again, overall, believe that very high patient impact with first-in-class antidepressants. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Everybody give it up for Naor, CFO of HMNC Brain Health. Any questions from the audience that we can get up here for Nir? As we're waiting, Nir, a question came in for you. What are the next steps for the development with the asset you just had a data readout from?
Right. So as I mentioned, the immediate next step is initiate a large multinational phase 2 trial. With a readout around Q2 next year, expected to confirm the clinically meaningful results that we saw in the smaller trial. Again, later on, potentially expansion to other indications in depression or mental health, phase 3, and then go to market around 2027.
Fantastic. Any questions? Yes, sir. We have one right in the middle. We have, oh, come toward me, Aaron Bree. Perfect.
Now, you mentioned you're in the process of fundraising. What are your fundraising plans?
So we expect to raise funds, a couple of dozens of millions of dollars, slated primarily for the progression of our clinical program for the next couple of years. The company is headquartered in Germany, correct? Me, the CFO, I'm based here in the US.
Another question over here.
Hi, Daniel Cohen with Conscious Ventures. You said that your primary delivery method was oral. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Are you exploring any ways of subverting peripheral metabolism by going directly, by bypassing the blood-brain barrier?
Not at the moment. No, we actually leverage this metabolism in the liver to create this or leverage and further strengthen this prolonged release profile that in the end results in this very important thing of low dissociative effects.
Gotcha. Is something like a shorter, quicker onset, shorter duration? Is that kind of technology platform anything that you would be curious to learn more about?
Obviously, we're open to collaborations with various companies that we're actually some of them already speaking to. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. One last question. Anybody from the audience? Let's give it up for Nir Naor. Thank you, CFO, HMNC Brain Health. Thank you, Nir.
Thank you.